I think I'm the best American Godzilla toy around. Yeah, nobody's gonna prove. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, run!
How's it going? Yeah.
You like what you see? Hey guys, welcome back to Unimportant Reviews. My name's Steve, and today we'll be going over the Neca Godzilla 2014 figure, which, to be honest with you guys, I wasn't initially planning on picking up this figure. I had the 24-inch long one on pre-order, and this is the 12-inch long one. And so initially I was just planning on just getting that, but after seeing the movie, and the movie was fantastic if you haven't watched the review that we did of it already. So I pretty much felt the need that I had to go get this figure. Plus I had a $5 Toys R Us coupon, so I actually got this guy at a pretty cheap cost, so made me happy. And plus, if the figure line does really good, they'll probably end up releasing the Mutos to go out with these guys. And it's more likely that they're going to be releasing the Muto in this scale rather than the 24-inch long one, just because this one would be a lot more accessible to people. And speaking of accessibility, I really do love that NECA's putting these figures out, just because they're probably my favorite toy company right now, because they put out like the Pacific Rim figures, they do a lot of the video game stuff. Like, I really love the Dead Space figures that they put out a while back, and I really wish they would have put out more of those. But a lot of people are going to be comparing this to the SH Figure Arts line, which is a phenomenal toy line, but I see where people don't really want to get those too much because of the price tag that are on a lot of those figures. They're usually somewhere upwards in the $70, $80 range. And I'm really hoping that these figures that they're going to be releasing compare relatively well to the Figure Arts line, but won't really know until I get them out of the packaging. Plus, they're releasing some, at least for this one, I know they're coming out with a Figure Arts one for this guy at the end of the year. But they already spoiled that they're going to be releasing a Godzilla 1985, which I can't wait for that thing to come out. It's probably my favorite suit next to the 2000, and then I actually do really love this look for him. But enough about that. For the packaging, it's pretty much the standard packaging we got with a lot of the Bandai figures, which seems a little odd to me because it's really reminiscent of what we got with the Godzilla on the back, which was a little bit up in the corners over here and stuff like that. This guy Godzilla with his tail down here. And then for the back, you just get a figure of him because there's no other figure in the line. They haven't released any of the Mutos yet, so I'm really hoping that they do. And then here's the bio real quick for you guys if you want to pause and read it. We good? Alright. And that's it for the packaging. Let's get him opened up out of his plastic prison. So for starters, we're going to go over the detailing on Godzilla, which I really do think the head sculpt on this guy is really nice. I really do like that he's got the little pupils here on his eyes, and how he's got like the ridges coming along here and stuff, just kind of like how the reminiscent of the Japanese one where he has it started from the top of his head and working its way down, which is really sweet. One thing that I wish they would have done a little bit more on is adding a little bit more detail to the muzzle here, because it kind of looks a little bit plain, and it reminds me a little bit of the Jakks Pacific one, which that figure was really cool for how big it was, but overall in terms of detailing it just looked a little bit unresolved, which kind of is what gives me a little bit of the vibe up here. But for how big this figure is, which is roughly about, I want to say about 7 inches, this just might be really hard to add that much amount of finite detail to it. But then again, they have like the scaling going on here and stuff, so I'm pretty sure they probably could have added something in there, which would have made me happy. But still, overall, it's a nice shape and design for the head. And I like that the teeth here are a little different color than the skin tone. And it's tons painted. And then another thing is, if you can see inside the roof of his mouth, it's painted there as well with a flesh tone, which is just a really nice attention to detail. And he's got his gills here. And another thing I really like on this figure too, which doesn't really come across well on some of the other figures, is he's got this charcoal black going on with his skin tone overall. But on his belly here, it's got a lighter brown paint application, which is really cool. It kind of helps to let it stand out a little bit better sitting on your shelf, even though it's not like a drastic change at all. But it's a nice little detail that they added. And then with his hands here, he's got like the cool dragon scales going on here, which one thing I thought was kind of neat what they did with the Godzilla here is instead of getting what I used to like to call the wrinkles, or how he has like the more like scaled, trying to think of the best word. It kind of looks like more like a scab kind of look to it with the scaling, which is supposed to help represent what people that are affected by the high dose radiation, how their skin ended up looking. And it was a nice homage to that. And it's cool that they went with a little bit of a different approach here, because you got like the big scales up here, and especially coming along his legs here. And then even with the tail, where it's more of like the armored plating going along it. And it helps him differentiate a lot from the Japanese Godzilla, while also you wouldn't, if you showed this guy to anybody, they would still recognize him as Godzilla. So I think overall in design, they did a really good job with this. And his dorsal plates here, which are a little bit smaller on the Godzilla just in general, and on the figure, it looks really cool. And it's made of this more softer rubber up here, which I wish they could have added a little bit more detailing on here, made the edges just a little bit more hard and defined, but I'm imagining that's probably the best they could do with this kind of material being the way it is, which with his plates down here, they also don't really have too much detail, but it shows up even with the little ones, so it's overall it's cool. I like the look to it. Now with his legs here and his little feet, look like elephant feet. One thing I didn't really notice, I mainly noticed it on this one a lot more than the other figures, and you see it in a lot of like the Jurassic Park dinosaurs and stuff like that, is down here where he has his little private section where he has like the little bulge coming up, which I don't officially know the term, and I probably should have looked up prior to the video. But I just thought it was actually a pretty cool touch that they added to this, even though it's a little goofy, but it's still neat overall. And I'm very happy with this figure in terms of detailing. I think he looks phenomenal, especially if you compare him to what we got with the American Bandai releases for this figure. Like this thing, for just being $4 more, just blows those guys out of the water in terms of detail. And next we'll go over with his articulation, which his head has a little bit of a swivel here. He can move up and down, which I really wish it could get a little bit higher up, but the way the plastic is on here, it really hinders it, which I can understand why they went with it, but it would have been cool if maybe they had like a little slit up here so you could lift his head up a little more at least. Because I really would have loved him do like the roar that he was doing in the movie where he's kind of like hunched forward and roar. Which, yeah, I can't, sadly. And another problem with that would have been his mouth doesn't really open too much more either, which that's about as far as you're going to get. So, overall, it looks really cool still, but I would have been happier if it could have moved a little bit more. Now with his neck here, moves on a swivel. Not too much there though because of all the dorsal plates and whatnot. Then his arms can move back and forth, and they actually can move in and out pretty well. So you get a decent pulsability with these, which if you compare this to the kaijus and stuff that we're getting from the Pacific Rim line, like this is even like his elbow moves here. And he's got a bend at the wrist that's on a ball joint, so there's a lot of play there. So even for his arms, he has a lot of playability with them. You can pretty much get him to pose however you wanted with the upper body. And then his belly here can turn left and right. But you don't really get like an abdominal crunch here, which is a little sad, but I can understand. And for his legs, they only move back and forth. They can move a little bit in and out, but it's pretty limited. But mainly back and forth. Then his knees can also move back, or can move side to side, and they can bend, which you don't get too much bending here. It actually took me a while because I had to actually work this joint in, which is really nice because the figure came stiff and not loose, so that's one really good point about this. And his feet are on a ball joint, so you get pretty good poses on here. Like you can stand pretty flat with these feet. You don't have to worry about them like sitting kind of cockeyed or anything, which is really cool. And one thing that I really liked about this figure is the tail here. It's kind of like half and half, where it's kind of half segmented like they do with the Monster Arts figures, where this is a joint here, this is a joint, and one more joint. So you get a little bit of movement here, which is really cool with the side to side, and you can move up and down or whatever. But the one thing that I thought was a little weird is they decided halfway in that they're going to go with the rubber tail with the wire inside of it. But it's really cool because I really like this version of it because the tail is really thick. So I wouldn't really worry about the wire popping out too much there. But it might have been nice that they, because I really do like how the figure arts does it all the way down. But I'm pretty sure like it's just like a cost thing that they just went with this. And the tail here is just, at the end is a little bit, this is actually the part I worry about the most. Is because I know on some old figures I had that were like this, where eventually this part gets a little bit brittle and breaks off because it's just rubber at the end. It's really thin. So I would be a little bit careful at the end of this tail, but overall he's just got, it's just a really nice look. Did you know that most people consider you fat? Alright, hi C's, let's compare then, shall we? Comparing the two in overall size, like, he definitely on the top seems a little bit more fit in comparison, while this, don't get me wrong, doesn't look all that bad, but he has like a little bit of the chubby bulge here and stuff like that, and then when you start moving down, it's just, he looks nice and neat and just more like a dinosaur monster kind of feel. Oh, Mr. Thunder Thighs over here and his childbearing hips. It's just, I don't really get why they kept saying that. It's just like, especially like, what was it, the one random like Japanese people were just like, oh man, your American Godzilla is too fat. Well, don't get me wrong, I really do love the heisty look and everything, but really, that's what you got? This is your fit monster in comparison? You just, aw. Why you gotta be so mean? So after getting that out of there, we're gonna be comparing him next to the SH Monster Arts Godzilla from the Heisei series. And I really do love this figure overall. Like, it looks exactly like it does in the film, and the Monster Arts line does a really phenomenal job with all their sculpting and just the articulation and stuff. But the one negative was that I think I paid about $100 for this guy. Well, he's only $18. Has a really fantastic amount of detail as well. Plus, even though he doesn't have as much articulation, which is a little bit of a downer, and the little bendy tail, which I really wish they would have segmented, but yeah. But he doesn't have as much of the gapping because of his a little bit less articulation, while he has a lot, especially like up here, here, and then like if you want to pose his neck, sometimes you get like the little gaps here, so. Like, it doesn't bother me at all with that figure, especially the line in general. But if you want something to sit on your shelf that just has a nice clean look, like this is a great alternative, especially at the price. He still has a lot of articulation and whatnot. So I think Neca did a phenomenal job in giving us a figure that helps to try to compete with the SH Monster Arts line. And here's the Neca Godzilla compared next to the Bandai American line Godzilla, which, no. Buy this one. And for one last comparison, we have the 2014 Godzilla compared next to Battle Damage Gypsy Danger, which I'm not as big of a fan of this scaling for these guys, because in the film he's supposed to be around 350 feet, while Gypsy over here is 280, so he's pretty well towering over Gypsy Danger, which we are getting a 24-inch long version of Godzilla that's about 12 inches tall, I do believe. That he's coming out on a later date, and I'm actually really excited to get that guy because I think he'll scale pretty phenomenally with him. So overall with the Neca Godzilla, I think they did a really standout job with their first Godzilla that they produced. Overall, I think it's got a really great amount of detail on him, the articulation's great, and I think it is a very good alternative for the Monster Arts line, especially at the cost that this guy came out with. I think it's just phenomenal. Neca, again, just showed how good they are at making toys. What do you guys think? Are you guys excited about this Godzilla figure? Have you guys already got it? Have you guys seen the movie? Or do you guys think this guy just doesn't compare anywhere near the Monster Arts figure line? Please let me know in the comments. If you like this video and want to see more stuff like this, please give us a like and subscribe. If you want, you can go check our Facebook page where we'll have more close-up looks at this guy if you want to see a little bit more of the detail on him. And I thank you guys for watching.